Marcio's muted, Cindy. So Jim's speaking and we can't hear anything because he muted himself. He has to unmute himself. Or we can't hear what's going on in there. Oh, he just did it now.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can.
All I wanted to let them know is to speak like they're an old-fashioned coach and put their mask down because we're social distancing. They need to make a comment, okay?
All right.
All right, we're all set, Mrs. Durgan.
We're social distancing already.
We all set, Mr. Durgan?
Okay, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag
of America.
United States.
Always stands.
one nation, under God, indivisible.
And justice for all. Number 2, roll call.
Mr. Toomey?
Here.
Mr. Shea?
Here.
Mr. Olivera?
Here.
Mrs. Rivera?
Here.
Dr. Marlin?
Here.
Mr. Durgan?
Here. Okay, item number 3, public comments. The public comments have been received, reviewed, and we've gone over them with the school committee. So, would you like to speak on that, Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Okay.
Earlier in the month, there was a handful of emails that were sent to Maria Fredette and also by email to the school committee members. And the overall subject at hand is with regards to the school's handling of extension of FFCRA and use of personal sick time with regards to quarantining during COVID. And we've discussed with the school committee members, and I want to ensure the school committee, along with the leadership team and along with the faculty and staff, that the principals and myself and the business manager continually visit and plan accordingly during these uncertain times, working with what other school systems, other municipalities, guidelines with the Department of Public Health and CDC. We're in constant communication, both with the business office and the union leaders on this subject at hand, and there'll be more information to follow. I don't know if at this time any school committee member has a question on the said emails.
Anyone? And we're going to move on to item 4, which the vice chair, Mr. Toomey, is going to read the notice of the meeting.
Okay, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order approving strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. The following meeting, the Greater Bedford Regional Vocational Technical High School District School Committee will be conducted via remote participation. We will post an audio recording, video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the school's website and local cable access.
Okay, going on to item 5, we're going to have reading and acceptance of the minutes of the January 12th meeting.
Motion to accept them as read.
Do I hear a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any question on the minutes? Hearing nothing? Yes, do I have a question? Okay, hearing no questions. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. Item.
Executive session.
It's even on here. Executive session is
Yeah, it
even
is.
on here. All right, can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the executive session? Until,
Second.
any question on the executive session minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. Item 6, reports. Let's skip it. Okay, A, approval of the bills.
Motion to approve? Second.
Any question on paying the bills? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. Okay, item B, parent communication. That's going to be handled by Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Durgan. Just wanted to include the most recent parent surveys that were sent out every other week to you. They're included in your packet. As you'll note, pretty consistently, 90+% of parents are either satisfied or mostly satisfied with the work that's happening in the district. We've also included the most recent principals letters that have been sent out to parents every Tuesday for the last several weeks. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those for the committee.
Any questions?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion,
Second.
we have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. Item C is going to be update on the freshman exploratory.
Mr. Watt.
Mr. Watt.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring you up to speed on the numbers of students that were picked, that they're picked for the exploratory process. The exploratory rotation this year went down from 15 rotations to 10 because we weren't sure how long we were going to be in school at this time. So we decided to make it as fast as we could so that the students would be placed before we had to go remote. Because originally we were thinking Columbus Day, then Veterans Day, and here we are, we're still in school, so that's a good thing. The numbers have been consistent for the last 5 years. If you look across the numbers, the number 1 through 6 picks have been 99% this year if we added the remote students in. So it's 97 this year, but 2% were remote. So we almost had 99% of our students get their 1 through 6 pick. And 90%, which I find is really large, the largest in 5 years, 90% of our students received their first or second pick this year. This was the highest in the 5 years. So they got 99% of 1 through 6, but 90 got 1 and 2. Those are pretty impressive numbers. I don't know if anyone has any questions on this. The numbers are there that I could answer.
Any questions?
I do, Mr. Watt.
Yes. Go ahead.
Just for, my information, the picks from 4 through 6. If I can at some point get the demographics on the 4th, 5th, and 6th choices, who those students were.
Yeah,
Graphics on that, please.
sure. That's a good question. Thank you. So another reason that we wanted to get the freshmen out early, so that they could be placed properly, and we could get the juniors back in the building, because they were affected a lot, and we only have so much time with the juniors as well as the seniors. That's it.
Any other questions? Okay. Can I get a motion to accept the report?
Motion to accept.
Seconded by?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved.
I'm gonna turn it over.
Okay, item D is mid-cycle report on vocational programs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to comment before we turn it over to Mr. Watt and Mr. D'Angelo. A big part of our where we were, where we are, and where we need to go with regards to vocational programs need to be looked at extensively year to year. And as part of our school district improvement plan, you'll notice that vocational program assessment tool has been supported by the academy administrators, supported by the director of curriculum, and working in conjunction with the vocational principal. In your packet today is a live example from our carpentry program that was put together from the academy administrator, Steve Walker. I know Dr. Marlin was very interested in using this tool as part of how we do our vocational programs. In my superintendency in the last 5.5 years, we've added new vocational programs, we've doubled other vocational programs, and at times, unfortunately, phased out a handful of vocational programs. And moving this institution forward, especially with the induction of a new superintendent and his leadership team, this vocational program assessment will be a vital tool for all 27 vocational programs. And I thank the efforts of not only the academy administrators, but Mr. Watt, the teachers, the lead teachers, and the director of curriculum. Mr. Watt, if you...
Okay, so we've always had a vocational technical program review, the old one that you've probably seen before, but this is going to be used in conjunction with this. The old one, we would look at dropout rates, Perkins data, and program placement rates, as well as checking off the boxes of certain items that we're looking for. But now we have 10 elements that we'll be using to assess the individual programs. The new items that we have on will be curriculum alignment, job market analysis, program trends, staff credentials, student licenses, and certifications. So this is a much more comprehensive assessment so that they will formulate the goals. That's actually what we'd like to do is take this assessment and use it as a goal-setting mechanism so that every year we'll tie in individual career and technical goals to address some of these assessment things that we find out in this program. So it's pretty comprehensive. If you look at it, it goes over a lot of different areas. And I think it's used in conjunction with the other one, and it's not necessarily a gut-to or anything like that. It's more of where do we stand, how do we get better? And I'm sure if Mr. Angelo has anything, or I'll answer any questions.
I think Mr. Watt pretty much covered it all. The only other thing that I'd like to share is that each of the academy administrators are now meeting with their lead teachers in the individual shops to go over the vocational assessment shop by shop. And the really good thing about this tool is that it's not just a checkoff list, as Mr. Watt was saying about the previous tool. It actually has a rubric, and that a rubric has very specific criteria that will place the shop either in exceeding the area, meeting, and proficient, or needs improvement. Any of those areas of concern that would be needs improvement, we will have a conversation with the academy administrator, and from there, they will create their goals for the particular shop and the group.
Yeah, we've definitely fine-tuned what we're looking for goals. It'll help them move the direction that they need to move in.
Thank you.
Question?
Questions on that?
Yes, question from Mike.
That's good.
The way I understand it, I think just for the public, one of the areas that I guess has come up over the past was like the timing of notification. This, from what I see, is going to give everyone an advance notice of where we are, where we're going forward. As you said, there's no gotcha. This is that not doing well, you have time to be better. Because I think some part of the rumor was on another area was that nobody knew, and then we did it. Which I think, looking back at it, there were a lot of notifications. So this is for the public also to understand that this is going to prevent any of those loopholes that were saying, well, why didn't you realize the shop was going to close? You should know a couple of years in advance about the issues. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
With-
And we're working,
With the strength of our advisory committee, input from business and industry and the community, along with solutions from advisory to the teaching staff, to the lead teacher, and supports through professional development and curriculum upgrades and working with the teacher and the academy administrator. The end game, it won't happen. It'll happen over time to whether we strengthen the program or look to phase out the program because we weren't getting the results and expectations that are needed.
You like everybody be on the same page.
Yeah.
From administration to teachers to even parents.
and the freshman permanent placement jobs will also play a part of that also.
Thank you.
Any other questions on 6D? To accept Mr. Watt's report.
Motion to accept as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, so moved. On to 6E, aviation program update. That'll be given by the superintendent.
Mr. Chair, approximately over 4 years ago, through the advisory committee and putting together an advisory group with regards to creating an aviation program, DESE a year ago approved the Chapter 74 certification for aviation. We have extensively worked with business and industry, the Airport Commission, applying for the appropriate certifications in recognition of a program and what they call Part A of an application, and we were in transition to Part B. With my leadership team and working with the academy administrator who would oversee aviation, I always want to win the game, but due to COVID, we feel as an assessment, we have to pump the brakes. Visiting Westfield Aviation Program and speaking with the commissioners of Chapter 74 certification, there are many telltale signs as a result of COVID for why we need to pause for a year. It was a phasing out of one program, the demolition of the cleanup of one of our shop programs, but also working with business and industry. Presently, people involved in Massport in the aviation program is in the minus 61% of employment opportunities. Working with the WIB board and speaking with the people of Mass Hire, there are many aviation pilots, many air traffic controllers that getting recertified and looking for different job opportunities because right now the jobs are not here. We feel that out of respect to the new superintendent and his leadership team, that if we pause, we don't know what the effect of what this could be to next year's budget. Do we need $150,000? Do we need $200,000 out of a set budget to create this program? And when we sent Zebaruda, Steve Walker, Bob Watt, and others to Cape Cod, to Westfield, and their assessment is, if we're going to create a program, we don't want a Chevy Chevette or the car or the plane that's in the program. We want to create a stellar program and have the funds in order to do so. There are organizations like US Air and Delta and the FAA that have been working with us in Colonial Air, and with the school committee's understanding of what we forecast the future, we would work with these advisory committees who've put a lot of time in to get us set. So the starting date would have been next August. I think we just need to reassess the situation due to the pandemic and the situation that we're in. And then Mike Watson with his leadership team can see what the next steps are moving forward. I don't know, Mr. Watt, if you want to.
No, I agree, it's okay. basically, we did the part A, part B, and we can just restart again. It's not such a big deal. I think it's the right thing to do right now. We're in the pipeline. We have the advisory. We have everything we need. So if we're ready to go, we decide to go, there should be no problem putting this through. We're very close to getting it approved already, but I think now it's just, is it the right thing for New Bedford?
Are there any questions on 6E? Or either Mr. Watt or the superintendent?
No question, Mr. Chairman. I just support the decision, as a school committee member from Dartmouth, to support the decision because I think it is uncertain. I'd rather see what we're doing get better than to try and do something new, so I support the decision.
Thank you.
Sometimes you have to step back before you go forward. That makes sense. Any other questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion to accept the report on 6E?
So move. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. Now we'll go on to 6F, and that's the school improvement plan. And that's going to be handled by Mr. Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Durgan. It's hard to believe that it's been just about a full calendar year since we last updated the committee on our pathway to completing these different actions in the 3-year district strategic plan. In the past, what we did is we pulled out the individual school year so that we reported out just during the 18-19 school year or during the 19-20 school year, those actions that were either in progress, had not yet begun, or we had completed. As Mr. O'Brien just previously stated, with COVID and the way it's impacted schools, it's really become difficult to track and implement one specific action over a school year because COVID kind of threw us a little bit curveball and we had to adjust last March 16th in a totally different environment. So what you have in front of you is instead of just this year's 2020, 2021 actions and where we're at, because some of the actions were carried over from last year when we had to kind of shift priorities a little bit. So for ease of reading the document, everything that you see that is in black text, these have been reported out. They were reported out as of last year, so we really don't have to go back and look at those items again. They're marked off largely. You will see it as either completed, discontinued, and so forth. There are also a few items that you'll notice that are in blue, and those items that are in blue are items that have not yet either been completed or we are in progress of completing those items. Many of those, you will notice it will say delayed. And one of the reasons, the major reason for delayed is because the pandemic threw us a little bit of a curveball. And in many instances, we kind of had to shift priorities and shift focus areas. There are positive items that came out of COVID, if you will. For example, you will notice that there are a couple of items that we are actually ahead of schedule. And if I can call your attention to, for example, page 13, we had a couple of items there, a couple of initiatives. One was to replace 25% of faculty computers last year. The other item right below was to complete the third phase of 7 and replacing the remaining outdated cabling as part of our technology plan. And both of those have been complete. And one of the reasons why that became a priority is with the focus of shifting to online learning and making sure that the technology was there to support those efforts that we needed to shift to. That became one of the forefronts of the work. So that kind of took a leap over some of the other items that we pushed back a little bit due to COVID. Some of the items that I'd like to bring up to the committee's attention, because these are items that were either carried over from last year, and these were items that the committee asked us to follow up in future reports. So for example, on page 5, we had an action that was to develop a district-wide strategy to attract a diverse applicant pool Again, because of COVID last year, when March came around, that kind of stalled a little bit because we were unable to go out there and have conversations with colleges and universities and, come up with a true plan to attract diverse population. So that's back on there, and you'll notice that, we've updated that a little bit with where we are posting those positions. And the plan was to work with the Equity and Diversity Committee to work on some of that. But we were informed this past January that committee was inactive, so it kind of slowed down that process a little bit. If I can also bring your attention to on page 6, you'll notice that one of the actions for this year was to enhance the admissions process for 8th graders. Again, because of COVID, some of the strategies that we used shifted a little bit. Instead of trying to make presentations face-to-face in middle schools, you'll notice that a lot of these actions that have actually taken place, we have been using modern technology to reach out to those 8th graders in our surrounding middle school. So that's another of those positives that did come out of the pandemic. One of the items that obviously we just updated you on was the vocational assessment that we've been doing, and that is in progress as we speak. One of the other items that, last year we had kind of pushed a little bit due to COVID was the development of a culture and climate survey. Towards the end of the year, we were not able to complete that last year. That survey has now been developed. It is pretty much ready to go. And what we need to do now is schedule when the survey actually will be rolled out to students, staff, and other community stakeholders. So that's another of the areas that we were behind a little bit last year that we've now caught up. So as you look through the document, anything in blue has been a change from last year's been an update. Anything that's in dark print, that's in black print, those are items we've already brought to the committee, and that they're still there so that you can see where we were when we started with this plan and where we are, because this plan has actually been a living document. It's not something we created 3 years ago and went on a shelf. We actually monitor as to where we are, how much was completed, and in some cases, how much we had to take a turn due to different circumstances.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Angelo on the school district improvement plan?
Rita has a
I have my hand.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Angelo, on the equity and diversity, where are we standing on that right now? I mean, that's been something that I've had several conversations about, and you're saying inactive, but what are our plans for this equity and diversity?
If I may, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
yes.
Rita, I'd like to answer that for you. A little over a month ago on Thursday, January 7th, we received an email from Mr. Shepherd notifying us that the Equity and Diversity Committee was inactive. In light of that email, the information for the mid-cycle school district improvement plan, that document that you saw tonight, was an agenda item for last month. So the assessment with my leadership team was to pull the entire mid-cycle report off the agenda item for January and fast forward it to this month. To give me time, what I ended up doing is working with the principals. I engaged in a discussion internally with our legal counsel. And part of that conversation was to get our legal counsel up to speed of where we were as far back as November 2015. And in light of this email, and during these uncertain times, what is the best actions moving forward as an institution? And the perspective would be that from both a legal and a public relations perspective, the current climate requires that if a diversity and inclusion measures are to be implemented, they should be implemented professionally and consistently with regard for applicable laws and best practices. Our present approach of enlisting volunteers who are not accountable to the district for executing the necessary elements of diversity and inclusion programs, or who may lack the requisite knowledge or time to do so, is one that is fraught with risk. In constant conversations, the best approach for this organization, in many organizations, municipalities for that matter, have taken this concern to assign the diversity inclusion role to a member of an administrative team, either an existing administrator or a position within these duties created through the reorganization. The strength of this approach is that a qualified administrator will work in a formal role in developing, implementing, and managing the necessary policies to work in conjunction with the school committee and the leadership team. Now, since working with legal counsel over the weekend late, we received notification from the remaining members of their reorganization efforts. It's my recommendation that the district, in transitioning to the new superintendent in the next coming months, can work with formulating a new direction for the district. And I just wanted to update not only the school committee, and we'll convey this to the remaining members of the Equity and Diversity Committee, because there is a sense of urgency, not only for Greater New Bedford VOTEC, but our society and our country in the whole. And I want everything aligned for Mr. Watson and his leadership team and the faculty and our students to have every opportunity in moving forward. So I hope that answers your question. We want to continually to work with the present people of the Equity Diversity Committee, and we will keep you informed of our next steps.
Any other questions?
Wait, Rita.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rita.
Having said that, Mr. O'Brien, how long do you think it'll be before we get something in place through our new administration or whatever? I mean, this is a passion. This is something that we really need to get working on, and I'm very concerned about it.
I'm going to have Mr. Watson answer that piece, Mr. Chair.
I'll take that, Mrs. Ribeiro, if that's okay, Mr. Durgan. That's really. So I have met with all members of the committee individually over the last several weeks, and this topic came up in a number of different formats. And so I wanted to be quite clear to members that are listening, as well as the committee who's heard from me already, is this will be a focal point in the transitionary phase around equity and diversity. When Mr. O'Brien apprised me of some of the emails over the last 72 hours, what's important for us tonight is to focus on the fact that any committee that functions under Greater New Bedford VOTEC is working hand in hand with the administration around solutions. And so when we were notified a month ago about the inactivity of the committee, obviously that was concerning. And we decided to pull this off the January school committee agenda and push it to February so that we could get our hands around the conversation. As you've learned tonight, that involved several internal conversations, a reach out to legal counsel about how this can get restructured in a way that this work continues because of its importance, not only to this school, but to the community at large. And so I want to assure you all tonight that as we move through the transitionary process and prior to my entry plan in July, this will be at the highest of priority levels. I want you to know that over the next, for lack of giving a time limit, 60 to 90 days, there will be a very clear plan on how we intend to address equity and diversity at this institution, as well as the personnel that will be responsible for overseeing the equity and diversity implementation in conjunction with other folks from our team. So I intend to share that with you verbally at a school committee meeting in March or April, or in the next 60 to 90 days. And then I will follow up with that as part of an entry plan that I plan to write over the spring and summer and report to this committee. So the short answer to your question, Mrs. Ribeiro, is this is a high priority. It will be addressed by the administration both during the transitionary and implementation plan for the next school year.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on 6F?
Mr. Chair, just a comment. Thanks, Helder, for bringing it up on number 14, page 14, about, page 14, where it says the culture and climate survey. I saw the word develop, so that's good. But I'm hoping that that's something that I've been looking for the last year or so. So the word develop just says it's develop, and I'm hoping that we would have a report back to the committee before the school year ends, with an idea of when is it going out, because I don't want to start July with, due to COVID, we couldn't get the survey out. I think it's something that has been needed, and I think it's going to tell a lot, if it's good or bad, but that's okay. You know, if it's not good, we have work to do. So again, you don't have to give me an answer tonight, but the bottom line is, I think that's something that we'll be looking forward to on where we're going with it.
We're gonna answer that tonight.
We answer that today.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I want to make sure that there's an answer to that tonight.
Okay.
Any other questions? I hear a motion to accept the report on 6F.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, we're going to move on to 6G, which is a comprehensive school climate report. That'll be the superintendent.
This is a subject area that has been in conversations for roughly a year and a half, 2 years, where I mentioned that previous school committee members well over a year and a half ago, where just after COVID hit, we had every intention to working with Mr. Jeff Lawrence and an organization, Agility, professional development along with survey development. In conversations throughout COVID with Mr. Lawrence on a financial piece, this survey development was already taken fiscally. I don't know exactly the year budget, but that the finances have already been taken care of in previous school year budget. In conversations throughout the summer with Mr. Lawrence, in transition to a new superintendent, we feel that right now, if you understand strategically, the mid-cycle review in the school district improvement plan presentation was tonight. This school district improvement plan will be in its final chapter come June. Part of the entry plan, in my conversation with Mr. Lawrence, is the transition from me to Mike Watson. We want to springboard into a new entry plan and a new school district improvement plan for the future. And the material you have in front of you tonight will be put together with the National School Climate Center, 14 dimensions of school climate measured at a national level, where much like the information we receive with parents with POSIT, this survey will be completed not only by faculty and staff, but it will also be completed by our leadership team, the community, and the parents of the students for which we seek. And at the state of which this school is, good, bad, or indifferent, will give us the benchmarks of what this institution needs for the next superintendent and his leadership team moving forward. We had a Cisco WebEx conference call with Helder Angelo, Bob Watt, myself, and Mike Watson. And Mike, if you want to speak on the next steps that as part of the superintendent induction program for Mr. Watson, so Superintendent Watson, you can speak on this piece.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. So again, real quickly, I participated in a call with Mr. Lawrence last week. I have a follow-up call scheduled with him after we apprised the committee this week. Mr. Angelo, Mr. Pius, Mr. Watt were on that call as well for the messenger piece of technology, the professional development stuff that Mr. Angelo will help oversee. Our goal is to do exactly what Mr. Shea outlined. And that's why I jumped in and said, we'll give you an answer tonight, because we need to have a clear benchmark. The first question is, how our staff feels, how our students feel, how our families feel. Are those interconnected? Are those disconnected? Because if we don't have real information and real data around all of these points, it makes it difficult for us to launch any type of a plan that can improve across all of those stakeholder groups. So that's priority number one, is to be able to develop a tool that works across all of these areas. It'll be slightly different based upon the needs of those stakeholders. But when we push that survey out and get those results back in, which by the way, we are anticipating for June of this year, the results, not the survey. The survey will be going out in the spring. Results fully dissected through Mr. Lawrence's group and a report provided back to the administration, which we would share with the school committee. Our hope is at the June, if not July, school committee meetings. That information will be very important for us to be able to formulate an entry plan around how to tackle those issues. So that was a point that we made sure was very clear to Mr. Lawrence and his team, and will be part of the follow-up conversation that we have following this meeting tonight. So that's the focal point. We can certainly provide additional information to the committee in March if you want to be regularly updated on the progress of this over the next few months. But at a bare minimum, you should expect some type of results to that survey at the June or July school committee.
That's fine with me, thank you.
If I may add a couple of things. I think a couple of notes on this particular survey, or the type of survey information that they give us. They kept reminding us that, I think as Mr. Shea said, this is a snapshot in time. It's going to show some good. It may show some areas that are in need of attention. The important piece is that not only is this a snapshot in time, it is also going to create a baseline for us, if you will, on some of the future actions that we'll probably have to take and we'll monitor in the future, whether follow-up survey to see whether or not we've been successful in addressing some of those areas that may show up as areas of concern. So it'll be used twofold, take a snapshot now, create that baseline so that we can obviously address areas that you identify.
Any other questions on 6G? Hearing none, we get a motion to accept the report of 6G.
Accept the report. Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. We're going to go on to 6H, which is the January attendance report. And that's going to be the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet this evening, we have an overall spreadsheet requested by the school committee monthly of the various absences and various days of absence through this terrible COVID pandemic situation, with the city of New Bedford still roughly being in the red zone, and this school acting like a small city. I also put in your sample this evening that, quite frankly, January 22nd, which was a Friday, was a situation on that day that pretty much crippled me and crippled the school for the number of absences we had that day. And a few of the members asked for me to speak on that day. That day was roughly 62 absences. And if you look within those 62 absences, how were we able to keep real sound instruction? There was a lot being asked of teaching assistants, teachers doubling up on time, along with various long-term substitute teachers, academic teachers, assistants, and job paraprofessionals. But if you look on that sample, of the 62 people, there were 13 quarantine reasons. 4 were school student, 9 personal, and then the laundry list of sick, family sick, maternity, personal, bereavement, vacation, and administrative day. On average, roughly on a Friday, it could range anywhere from 37 to the high 40s, but this day, for whatever reason, was higher than most. And I want to thank the leadership team and the middle managers of playing a chess game to try to keep this school open. I do want to make a point of record as a positive note that there are a handful of vocational schools that have, their students have not been on site since last March 13th. We're still trying to give the best hybrid sound remote learning possible to students, but I do want to say to the committee that Friday was a little bit difficult for all of us to maneuver. I don't know if there are any specific questions.
Any questions anyone has on that? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to accept the report on 6th?
Motion.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. Okay, 6I, the February Artisans Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The administrative assistant to the principals emailed earlier today a wonderful principals newsletter recognizing and celebrating Black History Month for the faculty and staff to echo the information to our students. Speaking of students, our graduation committee met last week, and we're putting the necessary steps in place for, at minimum, we were going to provide, hopefully, the same graduation, replicate the same graduation ceremony as we did last year's class. And we will work in conjunction with the graduation committee, Department of Public Health, the Student Council, and the CDC guidelines, and we will report monthly to you where we stand with regards to graduation. On that note, this remote learning is very difficult, not only for families, but for students, parents, guardians, faculty, and teachers. And there are some students who need the necessary support for graduation requirements and promotion requirements. And we have continued meetings, but we have meetings planned this week to be proactive to provide those supports for our students during these adverse times. Today, we sent off a letter to Bridgewater State University in conjunction with that institution applying for a skills capital grant for a cybersecurity technology range, and they want to work in conjunction with us for our students to be a pipeline for possible candidates for this program from our legal protective program along with our information technology program. I'd like to give it now to Mr. Watt and then to Mr. Watson, and if there's any other questions, after the full artisan report, the three of us are here to answer any questions.
Mr. Watt, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay. So the exterior of the maintenance garage is complete, totally buttoned up now, and the students in the carpentry, electrical, and plumbing area now focusing on the wiring, insulation, and finish work within the building. The juniors in the carpentry shop are building an athletic storage shed just outside the south end of the football field. Mr. Perry and his students will design, using a design created by Mr. Tom Richards from the architectural design program. It was pretty interesting to see in the junior shop, they laid out the whole set and then they disassembled it and reassembled it on site. So it was a great project for the juniors. Mr. Morrell and the HVAC seniors are now designing and installing the exhaust system in the new marine technology shop area. This system will allow the marine technology students to run outboard motors in the shop as they make repairs to the engines. Now, this is very important because it was approval was contingent on getting these exhaust fans running for the program. So I'm glad to see that they're moving forward with that. Culinary arts feel that the less production has helped their program a little bit. They have higher #1 picks, overall picks, and culinary actually has a waiting list again this year. So they're really excited about that. And they're still teaching all the COVID requirements required for the food service industry. Mr. Bousquet set up a prep kitchen in his house to do a better job delivering remote lessons. So I saw a picture of it, there's a picture here, and I think he's gone above and beyond to successfully teach his students in a remote environment. Early childhood education is celebrating Black History Month with Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream. And the students have wrote about a dream based on being kind to each other. It's really cute, it's very nice. And one of the biggest things about early childhood right now is that we can participate in co-op. We finally relaxed the standards and we can now send our students out. That's a big deal. Dental assistants will be receiving some new equipment through our Perkins grant, but also we are partnered with BCC Dental Hygienic Program, and we are going for a skills capital grant. We feel we have a very strong grant, and we're hopeful that we get something from it. So similar to Bridgewater, we're also partnering with BCC. The nurse assistant students in the 10th grade and junior year are learning or catching up on the hands-on skills they need for the CNA test. And the seniors are working on now, practicing for preparation for the upcoming CNA test that'll happen this month. And most of our seniors are working as frontline heroes at co-op at Alden Court in Fairhaven. So they're frontline right there, working in Alden Court. The medical assistant students, the 9th grade is full of students who chose medical assistant as their first choice. And they are working at various local medical offices. Positive results. Legal and protective, Mrs. Brittany Fernandez has joined us in December, and she will now be teaching the 9th grade students. Tricia Allen will now have the 11th grade students. We're excited about the new addition to the legal and protective. That will be it for me.
Any questions? Oh, wait a minute.
Just add one, yeah, I'll just add one more. I won't, you know, you can see the science department's reports there around some of their working Z's and remote. I just want to draw the committee's attention that tomorrow, we're going to meet with several of the administrators to complete the Department of Education's requirement around student learning time. We participated in several webinars over the last couple of weeks, including one on Monday. We continue to strive to try and bring more students back for in-person learning. The requirement for 935 school hours remains. So we need to provide data to the department, all schools, the week of February 1st and February 8th. We will be completing that survey tomorrow. So I hope we have to have it in by Friday and submit it. And then we'll wait for further guidance from them. But just as you hear, a couple of weeks, we are certainly looking at ways to bring more students back for in-person instruction. And that is directly connected to the fact that students need synchronous live instruction, either over a camera, remotely with direct teacher contact, or in person with direct teacher contact. And that is a department regulation, the 935 hours of in-person time. So we continue to work with folks inside the building, administrators, GNBVT around that point, but that is the goal, to make sure that we are in compliance with all of the department's regulations.
Are there any questions of either of these three gentlemen? Hearing no questions, can I get a motion to accept the reports? You have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, we're going to go on to item 6J, which is our student representative, Ethan Moore.
Hello. So over the past month, we've had a few things going on. So firstly, last month I had mentioned a food drive. So that has progressed, and several students are participating in collaboration with Skills USA to go to Our Lady Padua Church, and we're going to help them set up and organize all the food to be sent out, to collect, set up all the packages, and finalize that. Next, we have major progress with the yearbook with Ms. Chase, Ms. Ripley, and Mr. Quinton. So we are currently working on deciding and sending out senior superlatives to the students to pick. We think it's going to be one of the better yearbooks that we've had in a while, from the idea that they're working with, that they're creating. Paris Building Community, all the students in that club work together to create a bunch of Valentine's Day cards for a local nursing home. They worked together, they created it, and they sent it off to just uplift the nursing home in somewhat scary times. Scholarships have been opened up to all students, from juniors to seniors, and then they're spread out across upcoming months until send-off for students to reap benefits to help out with college. And finally, February 1st to February 5th, we had the National School Counselors Appreciation Week. And that was really cool to show some appreciation to people that help us out from a ranging of things. That's this month.
Thank you, Ethan. Does anyone have any questions for Ethan?
Just a comment, though, it's always nice to hear you every month because you come in with some good things that our kids have done. So thank you for presenting it.
Very positive.
Thank you, Ethan.
Very positive.
Anyone else? Hearing no one else, can I get Ethan's report?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none
Aye.
opposed? Oh,
Yeah, I'll say.
wait, aye there. Hearing none opposed, we're going to go with item 7, which is old business. And the only item under that is A, which is second reading for, second reading of,
Make a motion, we adopt the policies.
well, I'm going to give it to Cindy because that's her section. So that's what it says here. Cindy, can you talk to us on the, on A?
Dr. Marlin?
Okay, go ahead, Fred.
Sorry.
Oh. We're talking about their proposals. Your problem, yeah.
Policies.
Policies, I'm sorry, policies. I had a mental blank there, Cindy. Sorry about that. Item A, under old businesses, second reading for your policies. Like to speak on that? Cindy again. You want to take it then, Fred?
Make a motion that we approve the policies JFABD, JFABE, and JFABF.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, we're going to move on to item 8, which is new business, and 8A is going to be awarding of the vote to award the contract for the air handling unit. Let's do it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On January 13th, we have the bid opening for the rooftop and air handling units that need to be replaced. We worked in conjunction with the Griffin and Berry architectural firm. They worked with Mr. Aruda in getting the specs. So on January 13th, we opened the bids. There was only 2 companies that had in the proposal, and DDS was the company that was the lowest and most responsible bidder. So that is who we are asking for the committee to vote to award the contract.
I make a motion to approve the DDS Industries to do the roofing and air handling units at the school.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion?
How much cost was it? What was the bid, you know?
The total was $96,400.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. We're going to go on to item 8B, which is a vote to designate surplus equipment. Mrs. Stewart again.
Yes, thank you. This meeting, the surplus equipment is a list of printers that the IT department is mining printers into the Bay area, into Bay printers. There is no need for individual printers in classrooms and shop areas. So these printers that are on the list are just older printers that have now been consolidated with these Bay printers.
Okay. Any question about the printers?
Motion to approve the surplus list.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Obviously, there's no questions because I asked before. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. We're going on to item 9, informational. Let's see. Hey, this. I'm gonna make that out. Oh, I'm sorry, the treasurer's report. You've all got a copy of the treasurer's report. Are there any questions on the treasurer's report? No questions. All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, please signify. Oh, no, I need a motion in a second.
Second?
Okay, all those, in favor of approving treasurer's report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, so moved. 2020. What's that say, Fred?
District annual report.
Oh, yes, the district annual report. Any questions on that?
Motion to approve?
I thought it would. Yes, in a second? Second. Second, I just want to say I was very impressed with that.
I want to thank the board executive of Donna McCann, Mr. Watson, and others, but it's a great product. I've been working on this report continually over the last 5 years to get better and more and concise information, and the report was spot on.
Layout was all Mrs. McCann. She did an outstanding job with it. Maria was very helpful in helping to track down the information from a lot of the folks around the building. So Maria and Donna really deserve the credit for this. They did a really nice job.
Great job.
Okay, item C is Alfred Algo's report from the report, I think, from the Knights of Columbus.
Receive, place on file.
Okay.
Second.
We don't need a motion. Any discussion? Item 10. Okay, item 11, any other business to come before the school board? Okay, item 12 is executive session. I'm going to be retiring to executive session. We will be coming out to the open meeting after. We're doing an executive session according to chapter 30, section 21. We'll be returning to the open meeting. Okay, we need a roll call vote.
Mr. Toomey?
Yes.
Attorney Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Mr. Olivera?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes.
Dr. Marlin? Mrs. Durgan?
Yes. Okay, now, item 13, adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.